What do you think? You think they stand a chance? Well, you're on their side, aren't you? Who are you betting on,
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
Look at these lies.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Even if one of them survives,
the only way to stop him is to make another movie.
Welcome to the Celluloid Mirror. I am one of your hosts, Sean Mannion.
And I am your other host. I am Nicole Solomon. On the Celluloid Mirror, we take two films and look at what they reflect about each other, the audience, and the culture at large.
And in this episode, Nicole, can we talk about what we're talking about in this episode?
This is not.
This
was a very poorly conceived podcast, I have to say right up top.
I'm concerned because I think there are some rules, and more than one of those rules says that we can't talk about it. But there's another rule that says that there is no rule that a dog can't play basketball. So
that is so true.
I think we just flaunt the rules, be the heroes that the world needs, and tell people that we are discussing David Fincher's Fight Club, and Charles Martin Smith's Air Bud, which have obvious connections. I mean, we probably don't even need to do the episode, really.
No, we can just let the listeners run it in their head, but we're not going to do that. We're going to give you more than you need because we're going to start by giving you a brief synopsis of each film. We're going to discuss our responses to the films, what the films say about each other, and then we're going to wrap up with a little bit about the critical response to all of these films, all two of these films.
So, but really, two films that are so film. How you doing?
How are any of us doing? I'm alive. I'm here. I have seltzer.
Yeah, but like, what does that even mean, really? Like, when you think about it, like, what does that even mean?
That
Seltzer.
means fizzy water. Sometimes children call it spicy water.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard say spicy. I get that. I have heard that is kind of related. Like that's the sensation. It's actually a pain sensation.
Yeah, which is actually very relevant to our discussion today. I mean, it's a little bit of a masochistic experience enjoying seltzer, similar to how I enjoy eating spicy foods because it burns you a little bit, and then you get the endorphins, just like with the seltzer, the prickly water.
Yeah, they're prickly films, arguably.
Especially Air Bud.
Well, maybe for you, but I have a child's heart in a drawer.
I was going to say, I thought you kept it in a box.
Nah, I needed the box for the spleen. So we might as well give a brief synopsis of these films.
Do we have those synopses?
We forgot to copy and paste them, so let's just wing it.
All right, cool.
What do you remember that Air Bud is about? Or do you want to do Fight Club? You can do Fight Club.
I'll do Fight Club. Why don't you do Air Bud?
I'll do Air Bud. All right, so Air Bud is about a kid with no dad who died to get away from him. I mean, just his dad died, and his mom is the attractive nun from Sister Act 1 and 2. I assume that there will...
The attractive nun?
The most attractive nun.
To you?
I mean, I'm giving the synopsis, so yes, to me. Of course, to me. So his mom, they moved to like British Columbia or Seattle They move out to the Pacific Northwest. He doesn't know anybody, and like every kid in a movie who doesn't know anybody when they move somewhere, nobody likes him. Everybody hates him, and he should just go eat worms. Instead, he meets a dog who escaped a clown. And he does the very responsible thing of luring the dog to him with pudding cups. And he and the dog bond, and it's wonderful. And the dog is really good at like tricks because he was a clown's dog, so he's trained on the tricks. It's the kid wants to play basketball, but he's not confident. And he then he eventually joins the basketball team, and they're having a difficult game, but everybody loves the dog because the dog had become kind of like the mascot. And at the end of this whole thing, the dog is able to help them win the big game. And then there's a custody hearing.
Yes.
This is why we copied and pasted them. This is why, because that was a rambling mess, and we can't change it because it's live.
It's live. You're welcome. Should I talk about Fight Club?
Please do.
I'll try to keep it shorter. Also, I mean, obviously there are going to be spoilers. I just am going to say right now, if you haven't seen Fight Club, if you don't know what the twist in Fight Club is, and you want to keep it that way, stop listening to this episode, because I cannot talk about Fight Club without spoiling the twist. And if you somehow have managed to get this far in life without seeing Fight Club or hearing about what the twist is, like, honestly, I envy you. Go see Fight Club. You're going to be in for an interesting experience. Anyway, so what's it about? Spoilers. Edward Norton is an alienated, isolated white dude working in an office. He starts attending support groups as a way of dealing with his insomnia, where he meets a woman named Marla, who will become central to the entire story. Their bickering potential romance is repeatedly thwarted by the presence of the imaginary friend that Edward Norton has invented in his mind. He's kind of conjured up a more attractive, somewhat more compelling Andrew Tate to be his special imaginary BFF and help him break out of this inertia paralysis that he is in, that goes well in some ways, very poorly in others. What we are to make of all of this is very highly disputed. I have a different take on what I make of all this than David Denby does, for example. But as part of that, they start Fight Club. But then they start other things too, where men, specifically just men, can go feel alive by engaging in a sadomasochistic ritual that offended a lot of critics. Fight Club.
Fight Club. Now with Retson. So what did we think of these films? Do you want to start? Should I start?
I'll start. Air Bud is a classic film. Without it, we would not have the 45 Air Bud sequels or the reboot that is being cast right now. I don't know how you can deny its place in the canon of 90s sport films as well as 90s family animal films. It is what it is. Air Bud. Fight Club, I fucking love, and I am ready to die on the hill of Fight Club is good, and I will not let the worst people in the world who lack any critical thinking skills or media literacy skills have that movie that they don't understand. It's not as egregious as like the Matrix thing, another cult classic that came out in 1999, but it's a little bit like the Matrix thing for me, when just the worst people in the world are like, this is my movie. Neo's cool. Tyler Durden's cool. And I'm like, what the fuck movie did you watch? Anyway, that's my opinions. What do you think of these movies, Sean?
I enjoyed Air Bud. I was of I was too old for Air Bud when it came out, but like it's still like close to. I'm actually surprised I didn't see it because I have younger siblings. Maybe it was a little bit. Maybe they were too old for it too. No, actually, no. In '98, they probably. 97. Oh, I know why we didn't see it. It was 97. We weren't in the U.S. So I was surprised by Air Bud. Personally, I ended up liking it a lot more than I thought I would. Is it a great movie? No. Is it a fun movie? Yes. It was a better made movie than I expected it to be. Like just visually, I was like, oh, what are we doing starting with like and ending with like this bird? You're trying to say something. I don't know what it is, but you're trying. You're trying harder than most movies of this type from this era. It also, I don't know, it earned the dog actually joining the team more than I expected it to. Like I thought like the dog, there's no rule a dog can't play basketball would happen at like the beginning of the second act. And then most of the movie was the dog playing basketball. But that's not what it was. The movie's barely about the dog playing basketball.
I thought that was disappointing.
See, I was disappointed at first. And then I was like, oh, you made a movie about like a kid bonding and like finding himself again that happens to be based around a dog playing basketball, and you didn't just make the whole thing the gimmick. You teased the gimmick and then you gave us the gimmick. And like, is it good? Do I appreciate that they tried that? Absolutely. For that kind of movie, especially in the late 90s, like if it was the 80s, I'd be like, of course they did that. But in the late 90s, I was shocked that that's what it was, and I appreciate it. And the courtroom scene at the end is hilarious. Like,
how many stars did you give?
I think I gave it like 4 stars.
You did give it 4 stars.
Which my system for stars. I start at 3. 3 is average. You're either below average or above average. It was above average. I maintain that this fits with what I was saying. Because for 1997, for a children's movie, it is above average.
Okay. How about Fight Club?
You know what? Shazam starring Shaq came out around that time.
You mean Kazam?
Kazam, whatever the fuck. Or am I supposed to talk about the Sinbad movie that doesn't exist? Whichever one. The Kazam came out around that time. So for that time, it's amazing. I like Fight Club. When Fight Club initially came out, I thought it looked stupid and I didn't see it. I was like, that looks like a dumb movie. I don't want to see it. And then I was at a party and a friend had it on like video, or they rented it, and they were like, actually, no, it wasn't really a party. It was a hangout. And they were like, no, this is actually really good. Let's watch it. We watched it. I was like, oh, okay. I think it's an excellent movie. I also think that it fucks up because David Fincher isn't up to the task, which we can talk about more. Actually, this is when we would talk about it more. We talk about the connection and stuff, but we can talk about that in more detail in a few minutes. But I think that the movie is excellent. I think that the movie also fails in many respects. And it's Fincher who fails.
I'm excited I saw you say that on Letterboxd, and I'm excited to ask you some specific questions about
I have a specific
some
example
of your critiques.
how he fails.
Can we
Let's talk about the connection.
Yeah, let's talk about the connections.
So they're 90s sports films. I feel like some people would argue about Fight Club being a 90s sport film, but it fits a sport film. It doesn't fit the genre of the sport film, but it is sport. It's fighting, right?
Physical active. It is. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call fighting a sport. It's not boxing. It's not like MMA. It's just two guys pummeling each other.
Sweaty, half-naked men.
Grappling.
Yeah. But their reputations and legacies have grown over the decades. They have those compelling, quotable plot points. of the rules. I mean, I think the only thing I'd heard about Air Bud before I saw it this time was there's no rule that a dog can't play basketball, or however it's phrased. And of course, everybody knows that the first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. So, and yet we are, because we're rebels.
And I think also, like, people know that, whether or not you've seen the movie, people know, like, there's no rule that says a dog can't play basketball, and they know that you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club, and they also know that the second rule is you're not supposed to talk about Fight Club. Everybody knows these things, even though neither of these movies made that much money when they first came out.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fight Club especially was really, it's funny because it's like one of these films from 1999, which was a very good year for films in the United States, that we're still talking about. But it's a film that, like, its place now was not something I think anyone was taking for granted in 1999, because it didn't make very much money and it got some good reviews, but it wasn't like a huge critical success either. Lots of critics hated it too.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that people saw, like you. And I'll talk about my Fight Club experience a little later, but I did see it in the theater when it first came out, and it made an enormous impression on me. And that's part of why it's such an important film to me, even though all the stuff about Fight Club and all the cultural baggage it has that are not things that I'm particularly excited about. But yeah, I think a lot of people think Fight Club was a hit, and it wasn't.
It wasn't
really.
It flopped.
At least in the United States. Domestically, I think it may have made some money overseas just because, like, Brad Pitt's in it.
Yeah.
But it underperformed here.
It's also, like, I think, especially at that time, a movie like Fight Club probably would have done better in overseas spaces, just for the kind of movies that do well. Like, people see Fight Club and they're like, oh, it's people fighting. Like, at that time, I think there wasn't that thrust for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it looks like
in the U.S. movie market.
In its original release, Fight Club only made about $100 million, and that's domestic and international combined.
Yeah.
And it made, like, about twice as much internationally as it did domestically.
Yeah, I think it wasn't well marketed in the U.S. Like, I get this strong feeling they didn't know how to do it. Because, like, Brad Pitt was a name by then. Like, he was a big deal, but he wasn't the big deal that, like, honestly, he became more after this, I don't think. Like, he was, but I don't know.
He was a pretty big draw. I mean, he has become, like, the movie star in a way that he wasn't then, but he was a movie star. I think you're right that they didn't know how to market it, although apparently their marketing got me, because I was like, I'm going to see that movie. Sure. I don't know what this is. I was like, I don't know exactly what this is, but I know that I am curious and I want to see it. I was also super into Edward Norton at the time. He was like one of my favorite actors at the time. And I went to see that movie by myself. I went to see it by myself at the Lowe's on East 11th Street in Manhattan. It was either open, I think it may have been opening night. It was definitely opening weekend. And I lived not that far from there at the time. I was in Manhattan. So, like, I walked over. My roommate didn't want to go. I just went by myself. I sat in this packed theater. And it was one of the most memorable movie-going experiences of my life, because that movie's been ripped off a lot, right? So, like, when you watch Fight Club now, so much of just what we're seeing and hearing doesn't feel novel anymore. It's what we've been seeing for 25 years. But a lot of people ripped off Fight Club. In 1999, a lot of that stuff was actually fresh and novel and new and exciting. The ways he combined practical and digital effects, for example, looked fresh at the time. Now it's not at all. But at the time, I was like, whoa, this actually looks good. I'm like, look at somebody actually using computer-generated imagery in a way that makes sense when it wasn't even nearly as sophisticated as it is today. This looks great. Still, and I remember seeing it, and the movie's about a lot of different things. including a lot of stuff that makes me pretty uncomfortable. And it was literally one of those experiences where I was like, I don't know if I love this movie or I hate it. It could go either way. I really don't know. I'm going to try to just like let it wash over me, and experience it, and I'll figure out what I think about it later. And after thinking about it, I was like, oh shit, I actually think this is really good. And I kind of like it more and more over the years, which is kind of unexpected. But yeah, I also, also just so I don't forget to say this later, I would like to call for a moratorium on people using the song Where Is My Mind in films or television, because it's so overused. But as somebody who was an enormous Pixies fan, when I was younger, when Where Is My Mind came on in Fight Club, I lost my shit. Like, Surfer Rosa is my favorite Pixies album. That song I can't listen to anymore because it's just it's in everything.
Yeah, it's overused. Yeah.
It's so overused. But this was a great usage of it, and it was before it was overused. It was actually one of the first times if not the first time, that I'd heard that song.
I mean, it's overused because of this movie.
I know, and it kills me. But yes, I think that's part of why I brought it up. That's an example of like, yeah, I completely agree, because like people were not using songs from Surfer Rosa all the time in the 90s. In the 90s, actually, like, I feel like in terms of Pixies albums, people listen to a lot more than Surfer Rosa, and like Monkey Gone to Heaven and stuff. Those were like the songs you'd have on mixtapes back when we had mixtapes. And Where's My Mind too, but it wasn't. Now it's like the most famous Pixies song, I feel like.
Yeah.
The most used, and that didn't used to be the case, and it's a great song, and it's too bad people overuse it and put it where it doesn't belong, because when it's used right, it's very effective. Those are some connections.
Those are connections between the films. And I mean, it's, I guess we get into this more. I want to jump into all of that stuff, and explore more about what we think about it. But of course, before we can do any of that, Nicole, we need a word from our sponsor.
Of course we do.
So,
of course we do.
I'm gonna let you discover our sponsor.
Who is our sponsor? Don't click to see the sponsor until it's time. Okay, so I'm supposed to click this?
Yep. It'll just show you the graphic, because you need to see the graphic.
Oh, uh-oh. Wow. Today's sponsor is Tina Saylor's Golden Army of the Light. I feel that this is probably a reference that I should understand. Apparently not. So when there's somebody whose time on Earth really needs to be nearing its end?
I do. I can think of many examples.
Same. Like, they've just really been here enough. They've done enough. And it's just time for them to rest eternally. If they're not figuring out how to shuffle off this mortal coil all by themselves, and they need a little bit of help to reach their final deserved resting places, that is when, my friend, you turn to Tina Saylor's Golden Army of the Light. Because sometimes it takes an army.
It does sometimes take an army. A golden army.
Of the light to take you to the light. Not me, not you.
But others who may need it.
Who have served already. Perhaps,
Exactly.
Some of our elected officials who they've served.
Yeah.
They've served their time on planet Earth. They can, give some space for the rest of us.
There you go.
And that's when you call Tina Saylor's Golden Army of the Light. And you know you can trust Tina Saylor and all of her soldiers because of the mesmerizing power of her blinking blue eyes.
It's true. It's true. Where can we find Tina Saylor's Golden Army of the Light, Nicole?
I'm going to go find Saylor's Golden Army of the Light right now by hitchhiking my way down Route 13 and going right next to the Bennigans. And I have a feeling that is where we will find Tina Saylor's Golden Army of the Light. These are the wings.
Ooh, wings.
They've got wings in this army.
I completely believe it. I mean, it is an Army of the Light. So.
Amazing. And now we know.
And knowing is a thing that probably happens through Tina Saylor's Golden Army of the Light.
No doubt.
All right. So, back to the films, our reflections on the films. And we talked about what they have to do with each other already. We talked about, we talked about how we feel about them.
I have an important connective tissue point, though.
Yes, go for it.
That we didn't discuss yet. Dead dads.
Dead dad. Well, yes, no, you're right. No, well,
yeah.
Is his dad dead or did his
maybe
dad
not
leave?
Dead. Absent dad.
Absent fathers.
Dad.
But this
absent father.
Same result, right? Not being there.
So Brad Pitt is the buddy of Fight Club.
Yes.
Which makes a lot of sense because they have the same color hair.
They've absolutely served the same purpose. Like we didn't really talk about like that these movies are the same thing. Like Fight Club is a remake of Air Bud. Like, come on. The trial at the end of Air Bud is just the third act of Fight Club. Come on. Like it's Tyler essentially putting on trial Ed Norton, who doesn't have a name, and I don't remember the little boy's name in Air Bud, so that's basically the same too. But those scenes, it's the same kind of thing. It's putting our society on trial. I'm reaching.
Air Bud is.
Yeah, it's putting our just because the clown owned the dog, does that mean that he mistreated that dog? Why should he have the dog?
What does that have to do with our society being on trial?
I don't know. I said it was reaching.
I have a great idea.
Yeah.
Let's talk about critical responses a little bit, because I think the critical responses to these films will kind of lead us into some of the meat that we need to attack before our time here is done.
Sure. Yeah. You want to talk about the review of Fight Club? I think Fight Club's really the. Oh wait, hold on. I have a mistake here.
A mistake?
A mistake in my thingy. Something got screwed up. Hold on. You go ahead and talk. I just have a.
I'll talk.
I'm gonna.
According to Metacritic, Fight Club has a score of 67, which is generally favorable, but that's also the low end of generally favorable. And that's getting close to 50, which is pretty close to my memory of the reception to this film, which was just very split. There were people who really liked it. There were a lot of people who really hated it, including David Denby, whose review from the Current Cinema of Boys Don't Cry and Fight Club has been living in my head rent-free for the past 25 and a half years because it upset me so much at the time when I read it. David Denby, you can find this if you look very hard like we did in the New Yorker archives, but he wrote, and I quote, of Fight Club, David Denby says, "I think of it as a fascist rhapsody posing as a metaphor of liberation, and I would deliver a long tirade against it if it weren't such a dog." Such a laborious and foolish waste of time. That's what David Denby said.
That is what David Denby said. Yeah, one of my things got screwed up, but we'll skip it.
Can I say the Dallas Observer review, or is that what's
Go
wrong?
for it. No, it was the Denby thing that was wrong. So.
Oh, is it incorrect? Did I read it wrong? Or
No,
whatever.
it was a technical thing that has nothing to do with you. It's fine.
Cool. Gregory Weinkauf in the Dallas Observer also said, "Oh, and this this is special to me too, even though this is a newer trashing of Fight Club for me. Fight Club is to intelligent men what Catherine Breillat's romance is to intelligent women. An insult. Shall I go in the next room and grab the copy of Catherine Breillat's romance that I just got on eBay 2 weeks ago?
I don't think that's necessary.
They are both movies about sadomasochism in some ways. That's true. They are both movies that involve people choosing to engage in acts of masochism and getting something out of it. Is that what they mean by it being an insult? Is it an insult to intelligent people to acknowledge that a lot of us are masochistic in some ways? Is that insulting? I didn't know.
I think it's, yeah.
I thought that was just facts.
I mean, we've talked about it a lot with critics, and that oftentimes they're mapping some of their own shit onto everybody. But I do think one of the reasons why you want to talk about that specifically and jump to those, not jump to those, but advance to the critics is the Denby thing specifically, and I kind of, because when we have we have our running document here, and I do think that Denby is missing the point, right, of the movie. I think a lot of people who are criticizing the movie are missing the point of the movie. Which happens a lot with the.
What is the point? What would you say the point of the movie is?
I mean, the point of the movie is what they state. I do like very much like, Palahniuk and in writing the book, and Fincher has said, which is, it's a criticism of this type of masculinity. It is trying to reflect that, but also show the flaws in that and show the damage of that. I think they know that that's what, I mean, I think the text does the job, and that's one of the reasons why the movie's successful. The text of the text being both the book, but also just kind of the text of the film, in terms of what is literally what is happening in the film, and that like there is a broken approach to the need for connection, and that is strongly reflected in this. And it's the film is reflecting a lot of the what we refer to now very much as toxic masculinity, and how it's really an internal thing. It is something that these men are doing to themselves, that men are doing to themselves, and blaming on external sources.
I want to hear how you think Fincher undermines that message.
I think,
but before that, I would like to, if I could piggyback something onto that, because I agree with everything you said. I think it's about all those things. I think part of why the movie is so compelling to me and also thorny for some people is, while I think that is all true, and when you watch it, knowing the twist, the narrator becomes even more pathetic.
Yes.
And Tyler Durden becomes even more hilarious because he's so obviously what this guy would come up with.
Yeah.
Not a coherent person that could actually exist. This guy's fantasy figure. But also, I think the film is not. I think you're totally right that the film is talking about this kind of these men struggling with their own masculinity and blaming it on external forces, specifically in the narrator's case, women. A thing that was very clear to me watching it through this time is how much the invention of Tyler Durden and going through that experience was just so the narrator could get to the point of being slightly less misogynist. Like, that was his stupid personal growth story. But like, if you watch it, like the film starts and ends with him being unable to deal with his attraction to Marla.
Yeah.
He can't handle it. He hates her. He's a misogynist. So he has to have Tyler be the one who's interacting with her and all this stuff. But at the end, I actually think, and people can make fun of me all they want for this, but I think at the end, when they hold hands, and those buildings that supposedly hold all the servers that hold all our debt or whatever, which isn't how things work, but like, let's say it did. I think that is a great ending to a film. I think it's beautiful. I think it is satisfying to me to have seen this character go through this very real transformation. Part of why that's okay for me is because the Marla character is so horrible too. Like, he's not exactly just jerking her around. She's whatever. We can get deeper into what's going on there if we want. But I think it's a movie that's I don't think it's a misogynistic movie. I think it's a movie about misogyny.
Yeah.
That some misogynistic men, because if you're holding a hammer, everything looks like a nail. They're going to see misogyny everywhere. Just like they think the fucking Matrix is about how feminism is oppressing men, when that has nothing to do with it. Fight Club is actually about the alienation, especially of like wealthier but not wealthy white collar men, right? Like, not everybody in this film falls into that, but that's who the narrator is, and that's what his whole shtick is kind of built around, is his personal needs. And I think the film does take seriously the alienation that a lot of very privileged white men experience under capitalism, and I don't have a problem with that. I think it's just true. But I think the fact that the film does say that some of the fault lies in external things, not the external things these men are blaming it on, not their mothers, not their girlfriends, not IKEA, right? Like, that's not actually what's oppressing them. But they are alienated through what their place is in the society and economy of 1999, which is very different from where we are now. And it's very weird for people, for young white men, to watch Fight Club now and be like, yeah, man, it's so hard to be a dude. Like, I guess they just take what they want and ignore the rest, just like they do with the Matrix.
Yeah. So to just talk about like why I don't think, like, first of all, I agree on all of those points. I think, but I think that the text is successful despite the work of, like, Fincher does a fine job with the film, but what he brings to it, I think, is largely style, and I think that the text shines through a lot of it. A lot of it like complements it very well. But there are, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time thinking through like all of the potential examples I could have of this. And I'm sure if I sat down and did it, if I was prepping for a class, I would do that. And then I would lecture at the class for 2 hours like I do about Bohemian Rhapsody. But the one example that stood out for me of why I think that Fincher didn't quite execute it on it as well as he could have is the bus scene where they look at the underwear ad. They get on the bus, so just like context, I'm sure you remember it, but just for listeners' context, the narrator and Tyler Durden are walking down the street having one of their, like, if you're a young, if you were ever a young dude, you had some variation on the who could you take in a fight or who would win in a fight. Those kinds of juvenile conversations. They're silly, they're fun, whatever. Some people take them too seriously. They're having those conversations. They get on a bus. And on the bus, Tyler gestures at an underwear ad that we see sort of briefly, and these half-naked young men. And he's like, is that what a man is supposed to look like? And they're like, they make some comments about it. And then some big dude like bumps into them through it, and then it cuts to a fight. The problem with that is Brad Pitt is that guy.
Yeah.
And the film has an opportunity there to make that point, and it doesn't, because they have this. You see the shot, they have this conversation. Guy comes through. The next thing that you see is these guys fighting, and as I recall, it's Ed Norton fighting the guy. But like, to my mind, like if you want to sell that point, if you want to bring in that point of like, well, like, yeah, like, is that what a man is? Like, that's what you fantasize, sir, is, yeah, cut to that fight scene, but cut to the half-naked Brad Pitt and the ridiculous, like, physicality of that man. Like, that's right there. That's something that you shot, because that's making the point. And I think that, like, the text makes the point, and then, like, this is me being nitpicky on a film that I think is excellent. Like, I do think the film is excellent. I am nitpicking the film. I am also an avowed Fincher hater, even though I like a lot of his films.
I see your point that there's an opportunity there, but I don't feel that Fincher is undermining the point.
I'm not saying that he's undermining the point. I'm not. That's like, I think that my point is not that he undermines it at any point. My point is that really that the text of the film is good enough that his inability to reinforce it in many of these instances, because I think part of it is also why I would say is, it's a film that's a satire in a lot of ways, right? Of this thing. The other, and this is related, this is the other example I have that stuck out to me this time watching it. I never really thought about it before. So Starbucks features very, very prominently at the beginning, right? These they place the cup right in front of the camera multiple times. Starbucks logo everywhere. Then the assignment that Robert Paulson dies during is to destroy a chain coffee restaurant.
Yeah.
What is the chain coffee restaurant?
I mean, it's a Starbucks, but
No,
they don't
it's
show
not.
that.
It has a generic name. It has a generic like coffee thing name. I'm like, you set up Starbucks as part of being the enemy. You say you guys go out of your way to make it a chain coffee bar.
But you know
that
why.
is not well, I do know why, but it's still like, you're making the film, you're trying to make, like, you're doing this, but then you're like, are you doing it or are you not doing it? And this is, like, again, I am nitpicking an excellent film. That's all. Like, I'm nitpicking an excellent film because I do think that Fincher gets a lot of credit for what is ultimately like a film that is better, like a text that is better than its filmmaker. Which is, again, nitpicky as shit, but I'm a filmmaker with a lot of experience, and so I get to do that.
I'm not a Fincher hater. I'm not particularly a Fincher fan either. I dislike a lot of his movies. I like a lot of his movies. He's one of those who it's like neither a pro or a con for me. I think sometimes he's a great director. I think or at least a very good director, and sometimes he's doing stuff that I think just sucks. So that's that. Yeah. Fight Club is by far my favorite Fincher film. Like, by far. Second place would be like Zodiac, and it's not close. I read Fight Club, the book, a long time ago, like back around when I saw the movie for the first time. I read the book too. I haven't read the book since then, so I can't really speak to it, but at the time I did feel that the movie actually built on the book in some ways.
It does.
And I
It does.
preferred the movie to the book. I'm not going to give all that credit to Fincher. I think a lot of it is a kind of perfect storm thing, and it just, for me, it worked out really well. I was interested. I don't have it here, but I remember when you watched this, when you recorded it on Letterboxd, you said something about Fincher. Maybe you didn't say the word undermining. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said something about Fincher and his pretty pictures working against the film, and I was wondering what specifically you meant.
I mean, it's partly that underwear thing. Like, to me, Fincher is very much like his style. It's a cool style. I like it. He very clearly, like, when you read what he talks about his films, like when you read what he talks about this, he's talking a lot about crafting the visual style of it, which is great. Like, it is an excellent visual style that he has. I really enjoy it. And he really kind of created something with this film particularly. Like, I love the way Alien 3 looks. I enjoy Alien 3. Like, it's not a good movie necessarily, and it's certainly not a great, like, Alien movie, but, like, I think that it works. And I enjoy the way it looks, and I enjoy the vibe of it. But for me, he's a very vibes filmmaker. And I think his roots in, like, Michael Bay, Zack Snyder, all of these guys who came up through, music videos and really brought that style through music videos. I think most of these guys, and I'm sure a lot of people will hate me for using all, like, comparing him to these other guys, but that's where he comes from. It's all like the look of it and the needle drops, like, as good as Whereas My Mind is at the end of the film, it's still a needle drop moment, right? It's still a, like, let's drop in the song that's like very on the nose. But it's the look of it, but as somebody who spends a lot of time talking about it, I was teaching an editing class this afternoon. Like, to me, like, they have one half of that equation. He has one half of that equation. Most of these guys have one half of that equation with the look of the film, but in the edit, that is where they drop the ball, and the way that they bring those images together. Beyond just the style, I think, is they create pretty pictures, but it's about more than pretty pictures. It's about how the pretty pictures fit together in sequence. And I think the film is excellent. I think the film works very well. I do keep wanting to emphasize that as much as I'm criticizing it, like, and as harshly as I'm criticizing it. And I'm going to criticize it more harshly than Air Bud, which deserves plenty of criticism for what it is.
I mean,
because it does hold this place in our culture, right?
Sure. I'm trying to understand, though, I'm missing David Fincher comes from music videos, totally. And I see that in Fight Club, right? Yeah. I see that very clearly. But I'm not getting why that's a problem in Fight Club. What's the issue? What is the thing that you would like to be different?
Because it becomes the film, in a lot of ways, stays with, isn't this cool? Isn't Brad Pitt cool? Isn't he hot? It spends a lot of time, which he is, and is an important aspect of the film. But to bring in another satire, I don't think, like, he's very funny, and certainly when it turns around and you see, or when you watch it again and you see the truth behind what's happening in the film, he's very funny, and it's very funny. But I don't think that the film takes the time to go like, oh, but this is also, yes, this is alluring and this is sexy and this is cool, but also this is a problem. Or like allowing it to have the level of absurdity, like like that is there. And the comparison that I wanted to bring in for that would be Starship Troopers, where Verhoeven, probably one of the best, certainly probably the greatest film satirists of those decades of the 80s and 90s doing RoboCop and Starship Troopers very consciously is like, I have to make the fascist thing look ridiculous too, because otherwise it's going to look too cool. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Which you don't have to agree with. Nobody has to agree with me on this. It's fine.
I thought I had to. I thought that's what our
no. I'm just having like a moment of like this is my crazy ass unpopular opinion. I don't care if anybody agrees with me.
No, I'm interested in your opinion because I don't agree, but I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm curious. Because to me, when I watched it this time, I did feel, I mean, it's not Starship Troopers, but I felt that the comedy and the satire, especially in the third act, was actually at a higher pitch than I even remembered it being. And this time when I watched it, I was like, if you know that Brad Pitt is in his head, or once you know that Brad Pitt is in his head, it is impossible to find any of this cool. If you're watching it with, and I've seen this movie so many times, and so I've had, and I saw it before I knew the twist, right? I thought Edward Norton and Brad Pitt were two different characters. So if you watch it, and I've rewatched it not thinking about that, and I've rewatched it thinking about it. If you rewatch it thinking about how Edward Norton is imagining Brad Pitt the whole time. So you're thinking about things like what's actually happening here. Like, is he talking to himself? Where is he? Like, thinking through the physical logistics of it. If you're watching it that way, I don't understand how anyone can think it's at all cool, because it becomes so incredibly damning of the Edward Norton character in how incredibly pathetic he is, and how this is so obviously, yes, this is Brad Pitt, movie star Brad Pitt. There's a lot of interesting gender stuff that I actually liked a lot in how much the narrator is struggling with his own masculinity and his own insecurity, which is what that underwear ad is about.
Yeah.
To me, it's whatever. Could they have punched on it a little better? Maybe. But where I was really going with this, what I wanted to say before I monologue for 10 fucking minutes, is one of the other things I was struck by this time is, for me, this movie, the style is cool. It looks good, but it also looks so fucking ugly to me in an intentional way that is so off. Like, listeners at home can't see what my shirt says, but it says Semmelweis Fan Club. That's for Ignaz Semmelweis, which, real quick history lesson, that was the guy in the 1800s who was like in Austria, who was like, hey, when midwives deliver babies, the babies and the pregnant people are dying a lot less. They're doing this thing where they wash their hands before they deliver babies. And I think that's why people aren't getting many infections and dying. The medical establishment was like, fuck you, Semmelweis. How dare you call me dirty? I will not be washing my hands before I operate on somebody. I have clean, healthy, I trust my immune system, basically. And he died in a mental institution. However, his realization that doctors should wash their fucking hands did eventually catch on and was eventually accepted as very standard practice. Although that could be undone at any moment now, because now we're just like, hey, let's undo all of human and scientific and medical knowledge and just go back to the dark ages. That's what we're doing in this country right now. So we'll see about that. But point being, the fact that the narrator, who is a full-grown fucking adult, is like, cool, living in this crumbling mansion, getting gangrene, like, I was recoiling. And I was more engaged with how the camera was repelling me. And I know that there are people who watch the movie, like, cool, I want to live in a crumbling mansion with Brad Pitt too. But I feel like the movie is confronting that portion of the audience with their own bullshit. And if they're not willing to see that confrontation, what's a filmmaker supposed to do about that? Like,
I think it wants to, but I think that comes through. I mean, I think your point partly is that when you rewatch the film, But when you watch the film the first time, I think many of these people are just watching the film the first time, coming away with that initial reaction. And like, that is not his responsibility, to be clear. Like,
I couldn't make films if I worried
no,
about that.
and it's not. And like, and I would never argue that, right? That's not his responsibility. And I'm not arguing that the interpretation that people have is his responsibility. I'm just commenting on what I think is being done with it, because like, you know, I think, well, and we should talk a little bit more about Air Bud and relate these, because I think we can both rave about Fight Club quite a bit, and probably go on quite a bit just on this particular shade of the topic here. I think that, well, you know, I'm gonna raise a couple of the Letterboxd reviews for Fight Club, and I think that really, I intentionally picked two that like were reflective of people not quite getting it, but also I understand why they don't get it. And I think both are because young men are seeing it one time or being fed a particular interpretation of it. It's a 5-star review from Letterboxd from SYD Schlee, Sid Schlee, I assume is how that's pronounced. This movie solidified I will never watch a movie my boyfriend recommends ever again. Someone please give one decent reason why they liked this movie. Tyler Durden is what Andrew Tate thinks he is. And 5 stars from M. Sa. I didn't understand the ending, but it is absolute cinema. 3 emojis of women holding their hands up. The soap scene was disgusting, but I don't know. I love this movie. IDK, I love this movie, excuse me. And that's in all caps. If I hadn't watched it, I wouldn't be me in all caps. I'm Tyler Durden with no apostrophe or capitalization on I'm. You know, that's in parentheses. So I think in it, and I'm not saying this is a Fincher, you know, Fincher screwed up because these people didn't get it. I think that the film has become again, this is not the responsibility of Fincher or anybody involved. It has become a useful like touch point and even like instructional text, in the same way that like 1984 or stuff like that, people will say is like it's being treated like an instructional text for essentially how to do the, gag me for saying this, but manosphere bullshit, where it's the like tell them all that they're the all singing, all dancing crap of the world, and then give them some stupid shit that makes them think that makes them better and manly and whatever. And it's and that is what is Tyler Durden is doing in this, and that's one of the reasons why people definitely are going to draw the line between somebody like Andrew Tate and Tyler Durden, because Andrew Tate is just mimicking this, I think, directly or indirectly. I honestly won't know this much about who that person is, decided that's as much as I need to know, and not ventured into it further. I do think that there is a very good, very funny, and there's King of the Hill is, they did a new King of the Hill season, and there's a very, very good episode on exactly these people. And Hank Hill's response to them is very nice. I don't know if you ever really watched King of the Hill.
Yeah, the original show I used to watch a lot.
I think you'd enjoy. There's some good episodes of the new series where Bobby's an adult, and but yeah, the way Hank interacts with them is refreshing. So Air Bud, though, let's talk more about Air Bud before we lose our minds on Fight Club.
There's so much more to say about Fight Club.
There is, but we're already running like
maybe I need a Fight Club
longer
podcast.
Maybe
where I just talk about Fight Club.
You know what? Maybe if people ask about it, we'll do like some special Patreon thing or something.
I'm just thinking of people I know who have a lot of useful takes on Fight Club. Actually, the last time I saw Fight Club before I rewatched it a couple days ago was It was before 2020. I saw it at BAM. Jean Grey introduced it at BAM.
Okay.
Because it's one of her favorite movies, and that's she has a lot of great stuff to say about it. And as someone I like talking to about it, as another person who is not a man, who Fight Club is special to. She introduced it, talked about it and stuff. And I remember there was this one woman who was like, thank you so much for showing that, for doing this screening, because I wouldn't have come if you weren't hosting it. And it reminded me why I think this movie is terrible. And like, that was all she had to say. She was like, thanks. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Maybe we'll do a Patreon thing. Maybe we'll ask some people.
If people want it.
If people want it.
People want it because they demanded it. So Air Bud is not on Metacritic, so we can't do the Metascore. It is 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it is rotten. Roger Ebert liked the movie. He didn't love the movie.
He's a big softie, though. Of course he liked it.
And he said the climactic scenes are not only absurd and goofy, but also enormously entertaining. By the end of the film, I was quietly amazed. Not only could Buddy play basketball, but I actually cared how the game turned out. One of the things I was thinking about with this film, and a connection that we didn't really talk about before with Fight Club, is the ways that both of them are a version of something that dominates social media now. Like with Fight Club, it's this masculinity bullshit. Tyler Durden being like one of these masculinity like influencer assholes, and Air Bud having started as something that was on like America's Funniest Home Videos, which before we had the YouTube, before we had the TikToks and the Instagram Reels, there was America's Funniest Home Videos, where people would send in their stupid videos and Bob Saget would talk about it, and then on Letterman's Stupid Pet Trick. So like they're like reflective of where the culture was going in a weird way that I don't think one could anticipate in the end of the 90s. Like, oh yeah, in like 25 years, like half of conversation is going to be some version of Fight Club, and the other is going to be some version of Air Bud.
That's really true. Also, horribly, people are still making movies look like Fight Club.
Yeah. Just
in terms of the color grading, and they need to stop.
Yeah.
They really need to stop. It looked cool in 1999 for that movie. Not that dissimilar from how it looked cool in Seven also, which was like a little different color palette, but very, very similar effect. And they need to fucking stop. Sorry.
Exactly. No, I agree. I think it's the overdone processing, which was very popular.
The green. It's just everything's a green sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then after Saw,
yeah.
Oh my God.
Overdone contrast. It's too much. They both are reflective of where culture ended up going in a lot of ways. I mean, also even Air Bud, Buddy the dog, the star of the original Air Bud, who, from all I can tell, did not star in the sequel the next year, Golden Receiver, because unfortunately he had cancer. It's very sad. But and then there's been a bunch of sequels or
he plays hockey,
or
right?
I think so. I think there's hockey, and then there's like a TV show with a bunch of them, with like Air Buddies or something like that.
Oh, that's related?
I think so.
I saw that. I mean, I didn't
so.
see it. I saw that it existed.
But I think that, it's that like the equivalent of social media star going on to like being in a movie, which is the sort of thing that I think I have to be told when somebody's like, or learn later, like, oh, that person who wasn't good in the movie was an influencer, and that's why they're in the movie. They were just a really popular, okay. And now it's, at least it's just a dog though, right? They surrounded the dog with fine actors, and the dog did a good job. The dog was a good dog, unlike the people that they're like, let's hire them because they have 1 million followers on Instagram. They're not good dogs. I'm just putting it out there.
There are a lot of movies that the Airbud fandom wiki is telling me are Airbud movies.
I believe it.
A lot more than I thought.
I mean, this Airbud came at the beginning of Disney's era, because it's a Disney thing. It's at the beginning of Disney's era of, oh, we're going to do so many spin-offs for everything. It's like how there's like 40 Little Mermaid movies that are all direct to video, and there's like 20 like Aladdin spin-offs. If they can do, these are like Christmas movies. They can do 100 of them real quick.
Some of them are Christmas movies. I'm going to really quickly read all of them, and then we're going to talk about what Letterboxd has to say about Airbud.
Yes,
is this an acceptable order of operations?
Yes, I think so.
Great. All right. So according to air-bud.fandom.com/wiki/list_of_films.
Of course.
The Airbud films are 1997's Airbud, which we've been discussing today. 1998's Airbud Golden Receiver, which I remember. 2000's Airbud World Pup, which I didn't remember. 2002 brought us Airbud 7th Inning Fetch. 2003 was Airbud Spikes Back, so that's got to be volleyball.
That makes sense.
2006, couldn't tell you what it is, but we got Air Buddies. 2008 brought Snow Buddies. 2009 brought Space Buddies. 2009 also brought Santa Buddies.
That makes sense.
I guess we lost them because 2010 brought us The Search for Santa Paws.
Ah.
And then 2011 we got Spooky Buddies. 2012 was Treasure Buddies. 2012 was Santa Paws 2, The Santa Pups. 2023, Super Buddies. And then we had a break for like 13 years. But next year, supposedly, we are getting both Airbud Returns as well as Circus Buddies. So maybe we're going to go full circle and go back to the clown problems. And there were also 2 TV series. One is called Airbud. One is called Buddies.
Okay. There you go.
And there you have it.
It is
What does
a
Letterboxd
massive
say?
franchise. Well, we got a 5-star review from Dumbhead Police, which says, ain't no rules, says a dog can't play basketball. That's in quotes. Yeah, and until the Geneva Convention, there were no humanitarian standards during times of war. You think that's cool, Airbud? You think biological warfare and the targeting of civilians is cool because there's no rules against it? Fuck you, dogs can't play basketball.
But this dog obviously can. So
and actually does. You can see it in the America's Funniest Home Videos and in the David Letterman, which we should put in the show notes.
We should definitely put all of those gems in the show notes. If Dumbhead Police said dogs shouldn't play basketball,
That's true.
I would be open to hearing the argument. I think there are actually a lot of really good arguments for that, and I was not quite as sold on that pivotal moment in the film being quite as much of an airtight argument as I think you were.
No, it's not an airtight argument. Sorry. When I say I think that they earned the dog playing basketball, I'm not talking about that rule. That doesn't make any sense. I'm talking about that they didn't just go straight to that scene early in the movie. Like, they spent a whole bunch of the movie with the dog and the boy becoming pals.
Almost dying eating pudding.
Like, ridiculous shit with that. And
was
then
there
and then the
chocolate
dog
pudding? Am I misremembering?
No, it's not chocolate. It's not chocolate. It was like vanilla pudding. It was white. I remember it very distinctly being white pudding.
Okay, because I remember on the TV
It might have been tapioca.
I was like, is this a film about this child giving this dog chocolate?
I mean, it should not be given. The child should not be giving it like pudding, like for sure. But like, it wasn't chocolate. So anyway, so you know, they bond and stuff, and then like the dog becomes part of his life, and people already know the dog. The dog like does stuff during the halftime during the games and stuff, and like they already established the dog, and this is part of the point. They already established the dog earlier on in the movie as like, well, because he's kind of the mascot, he's part of the team. So technically he can join later on because he is technically already a member of the team. So yes, there's the rule that the dog can't, there's no rule that says that the dog can't play basketball, but he was already technically a member of the team, which is way more setup than I expected that movie to have for the dog actually playing in the game. Like, that is what I mean by that. I'm like, is that like really smart or anything? No. But I was just like, oh, you actually like took the time to like think about this and go like, no, we need to set this up. I mean, we haven't even talked about all the like really weird shit with this, like how the janitor used to play for the Knicks.
That honestly, my one real criticism of Air Bud is just that the janitor who used to play for the Knicks came off a little magical Negro-y to me.
Oh, 100%.
Like in this context where I was like, oh, that's right. This was in the 90s where Disney was doing this kind of not diversity of like making sure it's not literally a 100% white school, but none of those kids who weren't white really had more than like a line, if that. There were like not characters of color in this film, except for the semi-magical janitor.
And his magic
Bill
was,
Cobb? That's the actor?
I think that's who that is, yeah. From Demolition Man. So the 5-star review that we selected for Air Bud from Letterboxd says, dog eats insurmountable amounts of pudding, defies death numerous times, gets chosen over an 11-year-old for a basketball team, and becomes Michael Jordan. Haircut budget was low. Clearly everyone has bowl cuts. Probably use the same bowl. Free to watch on YouTube now. 10 out of 10 by Sabrina Grady. Really hitting what's most important about it. And I will say that like we're cherry picking some stuff from Letterboxd. We don't know any of these people. It's literally just I go to Letterboxd, I sort by most recent for 0.5 star and for 5 star, and I pick the ones that I think are entertaining.
I was entertained. Good job.
I was entertained. But you know, we can also put ourselves out there for the Letterboxd. We're both on Letterboxd. I am Uncle Sean. Nicole is at Nicole Witty.
I mean, it's all a mispronunciation
arguable,
of names from the old country.
Arguable if you're witty. So people can follow us and like hate on our reviews of stuff, and then we can block you, and it'll be great. I don't write Nicole writes more actual reviews than I do. Sometimes my reviews are one sentence about how terrible something was or how very much I loved something. But sometimes I actually take the time to do it.
I have a great idea
What's
for a
your
future
great
podcast. A new podcast we should do. We should just do like movie Thunderdome, where two people have to battle it out about whether a movie is like amazing and wonderful and perfect or absolute dog shit. Those are the only two options. And I want to hear you be the champion for Air Bud and just go all in. And because I know you have it in you, and be like, no, this is a perfect film. And because I know I could do that for Fight Club. And I would like to do that for Fight Club, because I actually have a lot of things wrong with my brain, apparently.
more than a few.
And I don't know. It's just a big, beautiful world out there, and movies are magic, and I love to discuss them.
Yes.
And Fight Club, before we depart, I just want to say one of the reasons why you may feel that you were being nitpicky about Fight Club. I am also aware that I have a kind of opposite thing on this like very narrow spectrum that we're on, from like thinking Fight Club's very good to being like, no, 5 star, this is a 5-star movie to me. It's not a huge spectrum between us. We both think it's a good film, but I'm a little ready to just go all in on it being a masterpiece beyond what I actually believe, just because life is so hard right now.
Sure.
And the thing about Fight Club that's different from almost every other movie ever made is Fight Club did arguably save my life one time. And I'm not going to tell that story on the pod. I've probably told it to you before.
It's possible. I don't remember. We can talk about it another time.
But I'm not going to tell it just because it's like not fun. But how many movies have saved your life, Sean. How many movies did you think of and your remembering the film made you realize a thing you had to do
15.
to ensure that you did not die?
15.
15? The movie 15?
No,
There are 15 movies. What are they?
No.
Oh, no fun. Because there may be others that saved my life, but Fight Club is the main
I
one
honestly
remember.
can't think of any. I probably have been in more situations where I could have died than I can recall, but I can't recall.
I've been in a few, and usually movies weren't what made the difference. And so when they do, that's a keeper for me. And that's why I kind of just have this urge right now to take all of my frustration and anger and rage and grief and all of that stuff and just pour it all into defending Fight Club. That would be healing for me, so that I could give back to Fight Club what Fight Club has given me.
That's special. That's really special.
Thank you. I think so too.
Do you have any other thoughts on like Air Bud as we wrap up?
I mean,
Feelings about it. Because I do think, again, like it is very reflective of the internet today, of both being like, it's a lot about dogs, it's a lot about like influencers, stars, movies, and a lot about, tokenism.
Absolutely. And also, these are both films that are very much about the status quo being in flux,
Yes.
right?
And as we pointed out, Air Bud Buddy is the Tyler Durden of the Air Bud movie. They're very different movies in the actual structure of the movies, but when it comes to it, like, he's the one who's helping the boy kind of awaken to the truth of like who he is. And while Tyler Durden is pushing the narrator in the wrong direction, he does ultimately come around to like, oh wait, no, all this stuff is terrible.
Yeah, it's like my take on the Tyler Durden character in Fight Club is like, yes, agree with all of it. Terrible misogyny, masculinity, Project Mayhem goes in a very authoritarian direction that is not my how I like to see these things. But unlike Air Bud, though, wouldn't you say the antagonist is the clown and the protagonist is Air Bud?
Yes. Well, no, the boy is the boy is the protagonist.
Okay,
The boy is
I
the
think
protagonist.
in Fight Club, I think Tyler Durden is the protagonist and the antagonist.
Yes. I mean, the narrator is the protagonist, which does mean that Tyler Durden is the protagonist.
Well, sure.
But also the antagonist, yes. Like it's narratively complicated in that way. In Air Bud, the antagonist is the clown, but like the relationship is different in the way that Air Bud, that the buddy is the Tyler Durden for the little boy whose name I forget, which also is just how he's the narrator, because he doesn't have a name in my head. But like Buddy in that way in which he is, because there are moments where he's not exactly antagonistic, but he's kind of creating a situation that the boy has to respond to. He is an antagonist in parts of it, like where the boy has to kind of respond to, like, oh, you're here, oh, I've got to hide you, oh, all of that. And they do have a very similar sort of moment to the car in Fight Club, the car where the narrator kind of gives up control for a while to Tyler. It's a lot like the get out of here scene in Air Bud, where he's like, you got to get out of here, buddy, like, I don't even like you, you're a bad dog, whatever he says in it. That's basically the same scene. I'm stretching.
I totally agree. And also, I think these films teach us an important lesson about how you need to get fatherless little boys dogs, because otherwise they're going to create an imaginary Andrew Tate in their head.
Yes, and we can see that in evidence all over the internet right now.
You can even have a father and they'll still do that.
Fair point.
But then I don't want to get these kids dogs. They could abuse the dog.
Oh, they will 100% do something terrible.
And we'll have to figure out a movie pairing so I can babble on about how I think my new calling is to be a cult deprogrammer and help people exit MAGA or being genocide apologists. But that's for another day.
That's a separate thing. But speaking of movie pairings, hey Nicole, have we decided when we're meeting next, when we're doing this next, and what we're going to talk about?
It's in about 2 weeks, right? I don't think but it's a Tuesday, right?
It's a Tuesday. Tuesday, September 9th at 6 p.m. We are going to be talking about.
Do I get to say?
Go for it. Yes.
Superman 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And
The Godfather, which have obvious connections, I think.
I mean, speaking of things that are basically just the same movie.
Basically.
And speaking of films also where you have human dog analogs between them.
It's true. And technically, so funnily, we are not talking about the 78 Superman movie starring Christopher Reeve, the screenplay for which was written by Mario Puzo, the author of the book The Godfather. We're talking about the new film, because it's the new film. We've both watched it very recently. I've seen it twice. It's now out on digital, not advertising for it, just saying. It upsets me that it so quickly, that turnaround happens. It's annoying. I miss the days of having to wait for stuff. But and there's other like nuance to that conversation that I don't feel like getting into right now. But I know.
Oh, I bit my lip.
I know that those exist, and I understand why. I just kind of, it's not a conversation for right now. We can have the conversation another. We can have that conversation next time on September 9th at 6 p.m. when we talk about Superman 2025, The Amazing Dog, Crypto. Again, we're talking about a dog movie because Crypto is super dog.
And The Godfather's a cat movie.
Yes, and there's cat in that. So there's connections we're going to talk about. Come and join us for that. We are obviously here on the YouTubes. Subscribe and follow and leave comments and share it if you're watching now or if you're watching later, whenever you're watching. I mean, really, if I'm saying this and I just said you're watching now, you are watching now, whether you're watching us live or not. Like that's how time works.
Is it?
I think so. And if you're not watching and you're listening via your favorite podcast platforms, of course, please, leave a review and share it around, and so that not that we're like trying really hard to get an audience, but it would be nice to not just be talking to each other, and to have other people listening and arguing with us, and just ignore them, as we tend to do.
It's always good to have new people to hate.
Exactly. And y'all can just hate on us.
We're used to it.
True. Anything else?
Dogs can play basketball.
Dogs can play basketball. And Tyler Durden's probably can too, especially in that like fuzzy coat. So
if anyone wants to talk to me, since we didn't get to go into this enough for my liking, about how Fight Club is not a fascist movie, hit me up.
It is not a fascist movie. I agree with you. I just
call it a fascist movie. Anyway.
No, I agree with you, and like there's a lot that can be delved into with that. Maybe we will have to do like a Patreon, just chat about Fight Club.
I will say, in some ways, culture has gotten better in that when Fight Club came out, I was talking to a lot of anarchists about Fight Club because we didn't have a lot of other stuff that was coming out around then to talk about in this way. And now we do. I'll say that.
There you go.
IMO, in my opinion.
All right. Well, good
Pour
night,
one out
everybody.
for Buddy.
The Celluloid Mirror is a production of 4 Mile Circus and is hosted by Sean Mannion and Nicole Solomon. Learn more at 4milecircus.com. To keep up with the next episode, make sure to subscribe and click that button to get reminders. You can also join our Patreon at patreon.com/4milecircus. All the links are below. Our opening and closing music is Twisted by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his music at incompetech.com.
I ended up in that hall of mirrors. There was another girl. She looked like me. Exactly like me.
Can you come with me in my dreams?
That'll do, baby.
What happens when the story dies? The evil is set free.
I have to return some videotapes.